Nicole, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I have the newest releases from Zoya. I have their Everlasting collection and their Luxe Noir collection for fall 2024. If you are new to Zoya, Zoya is a US-based mainstream brand. Their polishes are in 15 ml bottles, but they do also have mini sizes. Their polishes are 10-free, cruelty-free, as well as being vegan friendly. I purchased both of these collections from the Zoya website. If you'd like to pick this release up as well as support the channel, I do have a variety of affiliate links listed in the description box. Zoya is also available on beyondpolish.com, where I do have an affiliate code, which is Nicole Loves Nails, to save you an additional 10% off of everything on the website. As always, in the description box, I will have links to where you can pick these polishes up, links to the brand's website and social media pages, my website and social media pages, and of course, timestamps as well. And as per usual, I'll have all of my final thoughts and feelings at the end of the video. Let's just get into this one. Starting with the Everlasting collection, we have Franny. Zoya describes Franny as a modern blush beige cream. Franny had a pretty good formula. The base did not feel overly thick or thin, and I had zero application issues. Franny's going to be one of those polishes that's going to be a 2 to 3 coater depending on your application style. I tend to lean towards too many brush strokes personally in my application, so I did use 3 coats for my full hand swatches. Admittedly, I'm not a huge fan of shades like this. They're just a little bit too boring in cream form for me personally. That's my opinion! Seems to be a very slight mutedness to this one, in my opinion at least, but I feel like Franny is very much in line of what Zoya kind of does pretty regularly this time of year. So that is 3 coats of Franny. And now we have Henley, which Zoya describes as a rich, sophisticated rosewood cream. Reading that color description has made me realize I don't know what color rosewood is. I just googled it, and the first color that pops up in Google Images seems to be pretty close to what I'm seeing here in person. Personally, I probably would have described this one more as a mauve than rosewood, but again, I didn't know what rosewood was until like 5 seconds ago. Henley had a really nice formula as well. It was slightly on the thicker side, but the kind of thickness that adds to opacity as opposed to difficulty in use. While I wouldn't personally call this a one coat wonder, I did notice when I did my live swatch on my much shorter thumbnail that this was a 1 coater on my thumb, but I definitely needed 2 coats to reach full even opacity on my other nails. While I didn't personally care for the shade, I do still think the formula on it was fantastic, and if you don't already have 1 or 20 mauves, this would be a good one. And now we have Ondine, which Zoya describes as a fashion-forward, intense aubergine cream. Ondine is one of those Zoya shades that if you were buying it based on the photo on the website, I feel like you might be a little bit disappointed by it. On my monitor at least, I found on the Zoya website this looks very much more in the fuchsia category, and on the nail it's like a deep purple that leans very much in the berry family. Is also a lot darker on the nail than it appears in the bottle. On the Zoya website, they do describe this as being a 2-coat full coverage cream. I did find on my nails in 2 coats, I had a couple of dark spots where I could see that kind of fuchsia-ish color peeking through the darker purple. So my full hand swatches show Ondine in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. While I'm not exactly opposed to a 3-coat cream, I am however opposed to a 3-coat cream in a color that I don't personally love, and I don't personally love this one. Do want to give a staining warning for this one. I had to scrub my nails a little bit extra hard to get all the purple pigment off, so if you have natural nails, definitely wear a base coat. Next up we have Opal, which Zoya describes as a soft sheer white and pink with an ethereal rose gold glitter. I am very surprised that Zoya is describing this one as being a glitter polish. I wrote in my notes that this is flakies. The glitter in here does not dry down textured like a glitter would. It definitely dries more like a flaky would, so while not super textured, you still will want top coat to smooth everything out. I wrote in my notes that this was iridescent question mark flakies. I honestly could not tell what color it was other than I was seeing something in the pink family. As you're seeing here from my full hand swatch, this is a very sheer polish. My full hand swatches show Opal in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. I found that for me personally, it was a little bit too uneven looking in the base to call it in 2 coats. I needed that 3rd coat to even everything out. I'm gonna call Opal a 2 to 3 coater depending on application style and personal preference. The flakies in here won't make removal overly difficult, but it likely will be kind of annoying and very messy if you opt to scrub this one off. I would recommend the soak off method just so you're not scrubbing flakies all over yourself. This next shade is called Cosette. Zoya describes it as a luxurious warm rose with purple and pink holographic glitter. Cosette is another shade in this release that I needed to build up in 3 coats to get nice even coverage. I just felt it looked a little bit too patchy for me personally in 2 coats. If you don't mind super obvious visible nail line, I do think it's passable in 2 coats. Because this polish is just so holographic and sparkly, I did find that the glitters do a lot to distract from your nail line. I just found for me personally, I didn't have enough even coverage to call it a solid 2 two-coater. I think if you have shorter nails than I personally do on my full hand swatch here, that you're going to be more likely to be okay in 2 coats. I'm currently looking at 2 coats on my thumb, and I think that's passable enough that if my nails were a little bit shorter, I probably would be okay in 2. Because this is a glitter polish, it does dry down very textured. You're going to want at least 2 layers of top coat to smooth everything out. While Zoya does describe this as having pink and purple holographic glitter, to my eye, I was seeing definitely a holographic glitter, but there did seem to be a second glitter in here that's pulling a bit more rose gold leaning. My eye, I found this to be a lot more pink leaning than the purple that it looks on the Zoya website. It's a little bit too dark and a little bit too dusty to be a true baby pink, and I also still think it's a little bit too pink to be a mauve, but it's heading in that direction. For the easiest removal experience, use the soak off method or a peel off base coat if you have one. Do not scrub this one off. And the final shade from the Everlast collection is called Anabelle, and Zoya describes this one as a deep fall wine infused with a holographic pink, purple, and rose gold glitter. Anabelle had a fantastic formula. It was slightly on the thicker side. It wasn't so thick that I would say that I definitely needed nail polish thinner when I was doing my full hand swatches, but I do think after doing my live swatches, I probably should have added a little bit thinner to this one. I feel like over the past year or so, Zoya has released 2 different formulas in these holographic glitters. One is more jelly leaning and definitely more sheer, and the other is more opaque. I would put this one in the more opaque category. My full hand swatches show Anabelle in 2 coats with 2 coats of top coat. The glitters in this one dry down super duper textured, so you will definitely need at least 2 coats of top coat to smooth everything out. While Zoya does describe Anabelle as having 3 different colors of holographic micro glitter in here, I honestly could not tell you what colors they use without reading the description, because I honestly just assumed that they were going to be silver micro glitters in a tinted base. I was playing with a different macro lens than I normally use, so you get this extra shot here of me playing around trying to see how I felt about it. I feel like with this macro lens, which is a lot closer up than my normal one, I feel like you can kind of see that there's different color glitters in here, but my eyes were not able to pick up all these extra details. Because this is a glitter polish, it will definitely dry down textured, and removal will be very difficult if you choose to scrub this polish off. Do not do that.
Don't be a fool!
Use the soak off method. I did not personally experience any staining with this one, but again, I always caution to wear base coat and even double up to protect with any kind of staining on your natural nails. The first shade from the Luxe Noir collection is called Beckett. Zoya describes Beckett as a blackened teal cream with an intense finish and a neon aura.
Huh?
I feel like this has to be the first time I've ever heard a polish described as both blackened and neon at the same time. I honestly don't know what that's supposed to mean. There's no shimmer in here, so there's no like inner glow that the polish has, so I'm truly stumped at what that color description is supposed to mean. In typical Teal fashion, this is photographing slightly more blue toned than it appears in person. I tried tweaking the color on this one after recording this, and I'm still really struggling with getting the exact shade of teal that my eyes are seeing in person. To my eye in person, I would firmly put this in the teal category. It doesn't lean blue or green. Beckett had a fantastic formula, not too thick or too thin, self-leveled perfectly. Full hand swatches show Beckett in 2 coats plus a glossy top coat. This is another fairly pigmented shade, so I would definitely recommend wearing base coat or doubling up if your nails are particularly prone to staining. This next shade is called Isley, and Zoya describes it as a rich inky indigo. Personally, I feel like this is a darker cobalt blue or something in the navy family. I feel like when I think indigo, I think something that has kind of a purple lean or something in between a blue and a purple. Isley had a really nice formula on the first coat. It looks very uneven and a little bit patchy, but I did find it built up perfectly for me in 2 coats. This looks significantly darker on the nail than it looks in the bottle. I also found that Isley dries down very flat, so you'll definitely want top coat with this one to give it a nice glossy finish. Full hand swatches show Isley in 2 coats plus glossy top coat. I absolutely love this shade of blue. I'm sure no one who's watching this and knows my preferences are going to be terribly surprised at how much I love this color. Isley is going to be another shade in this release that I would definitely recommend wearing base coat or doubling up if your nails are particularly prone to staining, because this is a very pigmented color. And now we have Bowie, which Zoya describes as a dark enigmatic blurple cream. I am sure I am not alone in seeing this shade of purple just does something to just tickle my brain in just the right way, and I love it. So I will have comparisons coming up, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that was wondering if this is a dupe for Orly's now discontinued Synthetic Symphony. We also had a fantastic formula, a little bit streaky and uneven on that first coat, but I did find it built up perfectly for me in 2 coats. This polish also self-levels perfectly. I wouldn't personally describe Bowie as a blurple though. I feel like this is very firmly in the purple category, but it's a very cool tone purple, so I kind of see where they were going with calling it a blurple. This shade of purple has a very kind of electric vibe to it. It honestly makes me think of when brands release a neon collection and then they have a purple in it, and because you can't have a true neon purple, we get colors like this instead. And I love that for us. I especially love that this is actually in a fall collection because it doesn't feel very fall. So that is Bowie in 2 coats plus glossy top coat. Super easy removal. I didn't personally experience staining, but make sure to wear that base coat. This next shade is called Billie, and Zoya describes it as a rich velvety eggplant shade with a multi-tone micro metallic red finish. I will sum that up as being a more warm toned purple shade with a slightly larger particle size shimmer. Billie had an okay formula. It was a little bit thicker than I would have personally liked, so I did opt to add a little bit of thinner when I was doing my full hand swatches. How this one looks on the first coat is going to range from being very, very streaky if you go in for a really thin coat, or not too bad if you go in for a slightly thicker one. While I do feel like the color of Billie is just a little bit too dark for me personally, I feel like it fits really well with the other polishes in this part of the release. These are all very deep jewel tone shades. Full hand swatches here show Billie in 2 coats plus glossy top coat. I don't foresee very many people needing more than 2 coats for this one. Nothing of course will dry down textured, and removal will be very, very easy. This next shade is called Axelle, and it's going to look like it's applying really strangely on the right side of the screen. That's just because I had a little bit too much oil on my finger and the polish is mixing with the oil that I had on my nail. Zoya describes Axelle as a luxurious, seductive red with a metallic gold finish. You can see on that first coat, this one applies kind of like a pinky red. I found one built up in 2 coats, however, you don't really get much of the pinky toneness on your nail. I feel like this tone of red would definitely work for both fall and winter manicures for those of you who are seasonal polish wearers. The gold shimmer is a lot more apparent on the bottle than it is on the nail I found. On the nail I found the shimmer largely looks kind of red toned. You really have to look at it to tell that the shimmer isn't red itself. So that is Axelle in 2 coats plus glossy top coat. Super easy removal. I did not personally experience staining, but if reds tend to stain you, I would definitely recommend wearing base coat. And now we have Shayne, which Zoya describes as a warm, putty gray with a dazzling display of holographic glitter. Shayne had a fantastic formula. This one starts off a little bit sheer on that first coat, so you definitely need to build this one up. My full hand swatches are going to show Shayne in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. However, I will call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on application style and personal preference. While Zoya's official description for this polish does not mention it, this one does also have a golden or bronzy kind of shimmer in it. I changed the camera angle for this shot here so you can kind of see the shimmer a little bit better. If this polish didn't have the shimmer in it, I would have said that this was really, really close to Zoya's Connor. We'll have some comparisons coming up for Connor in a little bit. As per usual, Zoya really kills it with sparkle on their holographic glitter polishes. However, because this is a holographic glitter polish, it does also mean that it dries down very, very textured. You're going to want at least 2 layers of top coat to smooth everything out. Removal, of course, will be on the more difficult side if you choose to scrub this polish off. I would definitely recommend the soak off method or a peel off base coat if you don't want to have to soak anything off. Alrighty, for comparisons, this is Zoya's Bowie right there in the center. I had really hoped that this was going to be really similar to Synthetic Symphony. It is quite a bit darker than Synthetic Symphony. I was pleasantly surprised to see next to these other purple shades that I kind of could see where Zoya was going with calling it a blurple. I was honestly really surprised that I didn't have like a straight dupe for Isley. So while I didn't have an exact dupe for Isley, I still am not going to pretend that owning all of these dark blue shades is completely justifiable. I will also do my best to link all of these in the description box. Some of the polishes I pulled out are going to be quite a bit older and a bit more hard to find. I couldn't find an exact dupe for Beckett in my collection. I found a couple of things that were kind of similar. I feel like this is kind of in between Orly's Cozy Night and China Glaze Well Trained. Zoya releases shades like Ondine on a fairly regular basis, so I pulled out all the ones that I could remember from the past couple of years. I think I would say Ondine is most similar to Pamela, not an exact dupe, but probably close enough that you don't need both. Zoya's Franny is so incredibly similar to Zoya's Frenchie. This is just one of those shades that Zoya releases a lot of similar things to it. I would definitely say if you have Frenchie, you do not need Franny. Franny is just slightly pinker than Frenchie is, but the difference is so slight it's almost negligible. Surprisingly, I didn't have an exact match for Henley that I could find very easily, but I did find Henley to be super similar to Brianna. Henley is just slightly darker and has like a drop more gray to it. I think for those of you who really love a mauve cream that you'll see the differences between these 2 shades and say, oh yeah, definitely different. And I would agree with you, they are definitely definitely not dupes, but they do have a very similar vibe. I couldn't find my swatch stick for Zoya's Connor, so I just did a bottle shot comparison here. Shayne is not a dupe for Connor. It is a slightly darker shade of gray, and it also has an added shimmer to it. Connor, unfortunately, was a color of the month shade from last year, so it has unfortunately been discontinued. So these two are not dupes. They are kind of similar, but not that similar at the same time. And here is a side-by-side of Cosette versus Twinkleette. Twinkleette also came out last year, I think. The more purple lean that Cosette has really comes out next to a pink. Memory serves correct, I think Zoya described Twinkleette as being a rose gold, and I remember it being somewhere between like a rose gold and like a pale pink. I didn't have anything from Zoya that I thought was super comparable to Opal, so I just brought out some of their paler pinks that have like flakies and shimmers and whatnot. And then here is Axelle in comparison to some of my other red shimmers from Zoya. In the bottle, Axelle looks really similar to Sipsy, but I found on the nail Sipsy looks more like a rust shade than like an actual red. And I also didn't have anything from Zoya that I thought was that comparable to Billie either, which was actually a surprise because I felt like I saw something from Zoya like this before, but I don't own it. I did have quite a few purple glitters from Zoya, but I didn't have anything that was like that similar to Anabelle in my opinion. Thea would be the most similar, but that one is a pixie dust, so it's textured and it has multiple sizes of holographic glitter in it. Alrighty, so final thoughts. I will fully admit, when I saw the color story on Everlasting, I thought it looked rather boring.
Like, I don't like that. Like, I don't like it. Okay.
I feel like we see a lot of colors that are similar to the Everlasting polishes from Zoya, so I was just kind of like, meh, I don't know. It just wasn't a thing for me personally. Color story wise, the Luxe Noir collection really got me going. I really enjoyed the colors there. I am sure no one is going to be surprised that Shayne, Isley, and Bowie are going to be my favorite polishes from both releases. I do think both of these releases were fantastic. There weren't any truly bad formulas between them, but I also feel like a lot of the Everlasting is what we often see from Zoya this time of year, so like again, I'm not super enthusiastic about those, but if you are missing things in your collection that are in that same color story, I do think those are fantastic polishes to have as well. As far as pricing and sale information, Zoya polishes are 15 ml and they are priced at $12 per bottle. However, since last year's summer collection, Zoya has introduced mini bottles. Their mini size bottles are about 7.5 ml and they're priced at $8. So slightly more expensive ml from ml versus the full-size bottle, but I feel like for a lot of us, we have to be realistic and we don't really finish a full-size bottle anyway. But I did not get the minis because I am not a huge fan of mini bottles, to be perfectly honest. Since we are in the season for, you know, Black Friday shopping, I do want to mention that Zoya is a fantastic brand to try out, especially during their sale periods. They always do like some really fantastic sales towards the end of the year. If their Black Friday isn't amazing, usually Cyber Monday, Christmas, or even New Year's, something around these next few months are going to have like a fantastic sale. And by fantastic, I mean like 75% off site-wide.
Say what?
Like, it's a damn good sale. If you are too impatient to wait for a sale, I find the cheapest place to get Zoya polishes here in the US is going to be on the Beyond Polish website. I have not yet checked if these releases are up on the website yet, but usually Beyond Polish gets the collection sooner or later. If you prefer to shop in stores, Zoya is also available at select Ulta stores, but as far as I'm aware, they don't get every single collection. I would love to know what everyone else thought of these releases. Have you already picked it up? Are you waiting for a sale? Let me know. You guys know I love hearing from you all. Before we get into today's video, I do want to give a very special shout out to my channel members, Shenanigang, Stormy fans, your names of course all on the screen right now. So if you would like to sign up for channel memberships, get perks, live streams, all that good stuff, link in the description box or click join next to the subscribe button. If you are new to my channel and you just like my nonsense, feel free to hit subscribe as well. Love to have you here in the community. So just thank you all for joining me for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will just see you all in the next one. Also, in case anyone wanted to know today's Twilight shirt of the day, here's today's Twilight shirt of the day. Look at that. Linked in the description box if you want to pick this up. Bye!
When I get high, I ain't looking at the clock, still ballin' like Brian. Yeah, I'm headed to the Bucks, then I'm ballin' like yeah.